Okay, yeah, so one more Arrow video order came in. This is the final one from this Blu-ray spring sale they had from March 1st to March 15th. So this is the end of my windfall. Of course, I'm still paying on these with their PayPal credit system. So for now, this is it for what I can purchase for the library and for the Blue Review podcast. So I went ahead and sliced this open. I kind of don't remember exactly what's going on in here. I know I took some chances here with some items that I felt needed. I needed to kind of expand and explore my library. So we'll get into those last, I guess. And I got 2 individual Blu-rays too. So 2 box sets and 2 Blu-rays. So without further ado, this is Property is No Longer a Theft by Elio Petri. Elio Petri is one of my favorite Italian directors. His stuff is always, pretty much always, socio-political allegory, and usually very dark, very cynical satire and parody. Fighting, he's done Investigation of a Citizen Above Suspicion, Oscar-winning film with Gian Maria Volonté and the great Florinda Bolkan. I have that, and that's incredible. And then his weird take on the avant-garde, the subgenre, the avant-garde giallo, called Quiet Day in the Country with Franco Nero and his lover slash wife Vanessa Redgrave, which is just a total mindfuck kind of film. He's also done Totomoto, which is just brilliant, and We Still Kill the Old Way, which I haven't seen in a while. I thought it was pretty good. And then there's one about the working class go to heaven, which is just a trip. So here we go. This was another angry and irreverent and iconoclastic film by Petri, and also stars Dario Nicolodi and Hugo Tognazzi. So, and a score by, you guessed it, Ennio Morricone. Light on special features, but some new interviews with some crew members. I have seen this movie once. I really enjoyed it. Really looking forward to this. His stuff it holds up to repeat viewings because there's a lot of layers going on. Here's a beautiful one with a slipcase. By the way, that was a DVD Blu-ray, all in one. Those kind of weird anomalies that thankfully no longer exist, because I'm never going to watch the DVD. This is a longtime favorite of mine. I had the Anchor Bay DVD years ago. Crimes of Passion, Kathleen Turner and Anthony Perkins. This is really a tour de force by Ken Russell. I think it's Kathleen Turner's definitely my favorite work she's ever done. Perkins is just, he's Perkins. He's kind of, at that point in his career, you know, we're getting to the era of Psycho 3 and 4 and Edge of Insanity or Edge of Sanity. So he's kind of become a self-parody, but Ken Russell wields him like a fine blade. And China Blue, the sobriquet used by Kathleen Turner's character, Joanna Crane, is this extremely kinky prostitute. So she's like a fashion designer by day and a you know, to use an epithet that I don't usually say about people, but it is the name of one of Ken Russell's other films, a whore by night. So, yeah, I gotta say, this is incredible. Rick Wakeman does a great soundtrack. Rest in peace, Rick. This has several good commentaries and interviews, including interview with the screenwriter Ken Russell, deleted scenes, and also interview with Rick Wakeman and a music video. I mean, what more could you want ask for? You know, that's the bare minimum of that. I'll do a review, but this looks incredible. I'm really happy to finally get this. When this first came out on Era Blu-ray, I was like, I gotta get this. All right, so I went ahead and took a shot here with two, what do you call them? Box sets. Most of which contain some films that I've seen and some films I haven't seen. This was a half off price, so these were incredible deals. This one has 5 films. This one's called Years of Lead, subtitled 5 Classic Italian Crime Thrillers, 1973 to 1977. So this is in the genre known as Eurocrime broadly, but as pertaining to Italian action and crime drama films, it's called the Poliziotteschi, Poliziotesco, depending on who you're talking to. I guess one's single or one's plural, but I'm not an Italian language major. So this is some pretty cool stuff on here. So Vittorio Salerno's Savage 3. Excuse me. Here's what it says. This box set gathers 5 films from the heyday of the Poliziotteschi, the umbrella term used to describe this diverse body of films. In Vittorio Salerno's Savage 3, 1975, and Mario Imperioli's Like Rabid Dogs, 1976. Random acts of violence committed by vicious young sociopaths threaten the fragile fabric of respectable society. Now, of course, that whole juvenile delinquency gang thing, it runs through all the Poliziotteschi's, all these Italian crime films, and also through the Spanish crime films. And our man Elio de la Iglesia did like a little cottage industry about them with the El Pico films and the Navijeros, all of which you can see on Shudder or buy from. I think you can buy from Arrows also. I've only seen about 2/3 of Navijeros. I really liked it. I've not watched the El Picos yet. Okay. So then we get down to Massimo Dalmano's Colt 38 Special Squad, 1976, and Stelvio Massi's Highway Racer, 1977. In these, renegade cops battling against red tapes and political corruption turn to new and morally dubious methods to dispense justice. Now, I've seen both of these. They're very highly entertaining, brisk. They're just, a bunch of handheld camera and chases, with one take, and it's raw, it's in your face, and of course, it's brimming over with all this anger toward the system. The cops don't like the system. The system uses the cops. Of course, nowadays in America, the cops serve the system, slavishly, and are their executioners, and the foot soldiers. But apparently in Italy in the 70s, in the era of Serpico, I know he's American, but he's Italian American. The era of Serpico, there were cops who wanted, and Dirty Harry, there were cops who wanted to do it their own way, either like Serpico, because they weren't corrupt like the other cops and the establishment, or like Dirty Harry, they hated the establishment and didn't think they were mean enough. So these films are definitely reactionary to that kind of thing, and it's very peculiarly Italian, and I really like the details in these films, the police procedurals and the over-the-top, like police commissioner and lieutenant are cursing, and then the politicians and the media get involved. Everybody's got to kind of censor themselves. So the cop's like a lone wolf, and he's got to go on a motorcycle, and you get the idea. So, all right, and then those two share one Blu-ray disc each. Then finally, there is another film by the aforementioned Vittorio Salerno. This is a film that I got as part of my gold mine of 300 DVDs I burnt over summer of 2019 from rarelost.com. I told you the whole story of that in my last video. And this was one of those films, and I'd not heard of it before I burned it. I watched it, and of course, it had the whole kind of moral ambiguity. It kind of rides, excuse me, the punish terminology, but it rides the razor's edge between a giallo and a Poliziotteschi. So, of course, it has an incredibly Italian title, translated as "No, the case is happily resolved." 1973. An innocent man finds himself under suspicion for a savage crime committed by a highly respected member of society, a citizen above suspicion. All right, so it says that these were decried by critics for their supposedly fascistic overtones. So then you get into the whole thing of Dirty Harry was like a fascist, and people like Ronald Reagan like to quote Clint Eastwood. Ronald Reagan, a genuine fascist. I get that, but then there are people who said that rock concerts were fascistic too, and there were overtones and undertones. So fascism is one of those words that's tossed around by everyone against their enemies or things they don't understand until the real thing stomps a boot on all of us. So it hasn't changed since these movies came out. So yeah, there's an impressive lineup of Euro cult stars. Joe D'Alessandro, Ivan Rasimov, that's my man right there. Maurizio Merli, who's one of the most meanest, toughest motherfuckers in any of these movies. Enrico Maria Salerno. What? No, Henry Silva? What the fuck? All right, anyway. I plan on getting more Poliziotteschi. I'm trying to think if I have any in my Blu-ray library. I've got a ton in the DVD burnt sub-library, and I've seen a zillion, but especially by Umberto Lenzi. Severn's putting out the Umberto Lenzi, I think it's Severn's, putting out the Umberto Lenzi Violent Streets. 5 films by Umberto Lenzi, all starring or co-starring Tomas Milian, including the really infamous Almost Human. I've seen all 5 of the films in that set, and I really want to find it at a decent price. I'm very excited about that one. That will be one of my next purchases, which means I'll probably won't be able to buy it till like December of this year for Christmas. Way more special features than I can describe. So since I'm a little bit ahead of schedule for once, or something sharp, maybe we can take a look at these individual opuses here. And that's a pin. I don't want to ruin my DVDs or my Blu-rays. I have to do this scalpely. All right, there we go. So we're just going to show you these individual films to give them a little more character of their own. So Joe D'Alessandro in The Savage 3, and along with Like Rabid Dogs. Now I want to point out that this is not the same film as Mario Bava's Rabid Dogs, which was, Canio Avarbati, however you say it in Italian, which was filmed around the same period, but unfinished until years later. And of course, there was a great unfinished version that went around in the late 1990s on VHS and on Blu-ray for a little bit. And then, unfortunately, Alfredo Leone, the producer, and Lamberto Bava, Mario Bava's son, got a hold of it and shot new footage and retitled it Kidnapped. So that's what Anchor Bay put it out as. Luckily, Kidnapped, the DVD, had both cuts, so I could ignore the Kidnapped artwork and cut, and it was horrible. It was akin to when Anchor Bay, what's up with that Anchor Bay? When Anchor Bay released that, retooled Night of the Living Dead 30th anniversary. It was touted everywhere because it had new footage of Bill Hinsman as the graveyard zombie, the only zombie in history that aged. I mean, he's dead. I mean, he can decay, but how can he fucking age? I mean, even when Tom Savini appeared as Blade again in Land of the Dead, which is the only character crossover between those 4 movies, a tetralogy by Romero. First of all, he kept himself in good shape. Second of all, he is a makeup artist, so he he made himself look exactly the same as he did when he was first zombified, 35 years earlier. But yeah, I don't like shit like that. So to me, Rabid Dogs is Rabid Dogs. That's the title. That's the movie with George Eastman. That's the movie by Mario Bava, and it's a really great thriller. Maybe his only real gritty crime thriller. It was a nice lost film, and I don't like the way they tried to pull a House of Exorcism on it. Alfredo Leone was a double-edged sword for poor Mario Bava. Others, maybe Tim Lucas, might disagree with me or think I'm an idiot, because he is the expert on Bava. He did the incredible Mario Bava, All the Colors of the Dark, which I don't know why it had a Sergio Martino film as the subtitle. I understand. This is the phrase. I get it. Anyway, I prefer the idea of Cat Ellinger's Sergio Martino book, which had a similar kind of title, but was appropriate to Mr. Martino. But what I wanted to say in my long-winded fashion is that Alfredo Leone was kind of a dick, and he turned Lisa and the Devil, a masterpiece by Bava, when it wasn't seen in its correct form for years, into a House of Exorcism, an Exorcist knockoff, by filming new stuff. I think some of it he got Bava to shoot, some of it he got some second assistant director, AD, whatever, to shoot, and probably shot some of it himself, and he got Robert Alda to appear as an exorcist, and he made Elkie Summer, who's playing one of her more sensual and elegant, albeit frazzled, paranoid, kind of double roles in Lisa and the Devil, to be a hysteric vomiting frogs. Anyway, so I hope Rabid Dogs is better than Kidnap. I have not seen it. I have seen Savage 3. Okay, so the next one's in here, Cult 35 Special Squad. Oh yeah, Marcel Bofuzzi, Ivan Razumov, and Carol Andrein. Look at this art. This is pretty cool. It looks like pencil art. That was probably ink wash. Massimo Dallamano. Also has Highway Racer. That's the one with Maurizio Merli. Some pretty cool shit. And then here is No, the Case is Happily Resolved. Man, I don't know. I'm not familiar with the two lead actors in this, but I remember this movie. It's pretty brutal and fucked up. And of course, Injustice. And of course, no, it's happily solved. Move on. And of course, it's not. Justice has not been served. And justice is rarely served in Poliziotteschi, except, by the end of a gun barrel. So I went ahead and purchased this other box set, which was incredibly cheap for what it was. And I'm going to go ahead and loosen this up a little bit so we can dive in. And then I'll be finished, I promise. And so this one they titled Vengeance Trails. This is an Arrow exclusive 4 classic westerns by Lucio Fulci, my man Maurizio Lucidi, Massimo Dallamano yet again, and the great Antonio Margheriti. These are some fine films. I have seen every one of these films. Massacre Time by Lucio Fulci, finally restored. I'm sure it looks beautiful. I had a cruddy copy. And then a better copy with the alternate American title, The Brute and the Beast, came out, and I was like, do I want to upgrade? It was the DVD, and eventually I'm like, I'm going to wait for the Blu-ray. So I ended up with 2 copies of Massacre Time. I sold both of them. One was a rarer one. But anyway, they both were not expertly restored. I'm praying this one is. I'm super excited. I love Massacre Time. It's an early Fulci and an early Franco Nero. Also has our good man George Hilton in it, and Nino Castelnuovo from Umbrellas of Cherbourg being a really disgusting villain. And the basic plot of the movie was later retooled for Texas Audio, also starring Franco Nero, which you can find on the deluxe Django Arrow set or Steelbook set. My Name is Pecos. Now, that's got Robert Woods, who's a really cool dude. Nice, friendly, too. I know him on Facebook, a little bit. Robert Woods has got really good attitude. He was a great action and drama, mainly humor though, action humor. And I only saw My Name is Pecos like within the last, I don't know, 2 or maybe 4 years, when I went through a massive, I think 2017, I watched about 75 spaghetti westerns in 1 year. And there was a sequel too. But My Name is Pecos was really stood out among the ones I was watching. It was just the character, the humor, the energy. I loved it. Bandidos, I remember this as a minor entry. This one is this the one by Massimo? Oh, by the way, My Name is Pecos has an interview with Luigi Montefiore, aka George Eastman. I forgot he was in it, or did he write it? I'm not sure because he wrote stuff too. You know, he wrote Kioma. He created the character Kioma. When I review the Kioma era, we'll get into all that. I really like George Eastman. Uh, My Name is Pecos. Yes. Okay. So the next one is Bandidos. Now, Kat Ellinger, Speak of the Devilish, young lady herself, she does an audio commentary for that one. So this one, I don't remember much about it except I thought it was okay. It wasn't like top tier like the last two I mentioned. And then this next one is definitely a top tier, and this was a much sought after movie for years on bootleg. And God Said to Cain, of course, touted as a favorite of Quentin Tarantino, which immediately legitimizes any film. No, I'm just joking. I don't believe that personally, but millions do. And God Said to Cain. So this one has, yeah, man, audio commentary by Howard Hughes. I guess he's from the grave. No, I'm kidding. It's a like named guy. This one starred Klaus Kinski, and Antonio Margheriti directed it. It's not one of his very best, but it is a really good one. It's probably his best spaghetti western. That and Vengeance are both great. I'm eager to see that one remastered. It's a pretty powerful film, from what I remember. Uh, but all told, this is an entertaining set. I mean, I used to get these multiple sets on DVD of like 8 or 10 spaghetti westerns at a pop, and the prints would be pretty shoddy, but it's like at least I'm seeing spaghetti westerns, and you'd usually get like 5 or 6 that were just kind of generic, and then you'd get 3 or 4 that were kind of interesting, and then you might get one that's like a real gem. So I'm hoping all 4 of these in this current thing, even Banditos, uh, by Dalamano turns out to be a gem. Dalamano's been on a roll in my book lately, reappraising him quite a bit after seeing What Have They Done to Our Daughters in the Giallo Essential 2 box set. Also by Arrow. I don't work for Arrow, disclaimer, I'm not hyping them because I've worked for them. So anyway, Years of Lead, 5, Poliziotteschi's Vengeance Trails, 4, Spaghetti Western. Property is no longer a theft, more timely than ever, and an 80s classic, Crimes of Passion. This concludes my orders from Arrow for their spring sale, half off on selected Blu-rays. Happy to share it with you guys. I'm happy to be able to, afford these, even though, like I said, they're not paid for yet. But I have a job, like the scene in American Splendor where Paul Giamatti as Harvey Picar wakes up in a sweat. And he's like, I have a job. I have a job. I have a job. And that's kind of how I feel every day in this turgid, inflation-riddled, decrepit economy. So anyway, love you guys. Thanks for listening.